Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Ashley Stewart. I am a senior lecturer of visual communication design from the Department of Finance and Design, University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria, all the way from Nigeria. So a little bit about myself. I studied here in Loughborough, 2008 at the business school, where I studied for an MSc in international management. But however, I have a background in graphic design, video communication, design research, and heritage design as well. And artificial intelligence as it's an emerging technology. I'm also exploring how it can help to enrich what I do in my field. So I'm also the international ambassador for Loughborough University Alumni Association and a couple of other things that I do in and around the country. I don't know who's a creative here. Anybody with a creative background? Visual arts, communication, a little. Okay. I don't know if you know the Arts Council of African Studies Association, ACASA, in the United States. Okay. I'm one of the board members. Then International Communications Association, ICA. Anybody? Nobody. Okay. Okay, this is an opportunity for you to know the kind of associations that exist outside, and those are communities where we can come and express ourselves, give back, and also learn from one another. So in a nutshell, that's who I am. So thank you for being here. Really excited to share some of my work and hoping that you should be able to go home with something from this creative research workshop. Thank you for being here. So we begin with our title today, Design, Archives, and the Algorithms, Creative Methods for Researching Visual Heritage. Who's in visual heritage research? Beautiful. Anthropology, sociology, humanities, that's our field. Yeah, yeah. So the goal of this session is to explore how we all, you and I, doctoral researchers, early career researchers, and researchers in general from a variety of disciplines, not necessarily only our field. I believe that other people from other disciplines will be able to benefit from what we're doing here. You can move beyond conventional research approaches and engage with archives through creative, participatory, and design-led methods. So in this workshop today, we will be exploring archives beyond repositories of the past. We don't just see them as static saving devices or static images or things that we just keep in our computers, in our mobile phones, or located in various places such as sculptural pieces, architectural pieces, and vernacular design, as they call it. We're going to see them as dynamic spaces for interpretation, for experimentation, and knowledge production. So we will explore several creative methods that can be used to study research, particularly visual heritage. That's why we're here. And some of these methods include critical visual analysis, very important to what we do. And of course, it's multidisciplinary. It's not just for us. So there's also visual typographic storytelling. There's participatory research methods. Photo voice, who's head of photo voice? You have, beautiful, great. So I'm in good company. And then arts-based and embodied methods. Have any of you practiced that? Okay, so that's my core field, right? And algorithmic interpretation of archival materials. That's where the AI comes in. That's where we're trying to gain ground as we are as creatives. We want to see how these other tools can help us begin to see beyond what we already know, okay? And as we go along, we should be able to have some practical sessions, some activities to explore what we're trying to learn here today. So, but before we move further, we should be able to understand some key concepts. Okay, so of course, we've explained what we're going to do today. So some key concepts that we're going to hear today is What is an archive? What is heritage? Well, practice-led methods and all. So we're hoping that at the end of this workshop today, you will be able to understand creative methods for working with archives. We'll be experiencing practice-led research approaches, and then to see how AI can be used as a research tool, not just an add-on. You know, a lot of people say there's some challenges with it, there's some ethical considerations or concerns when it comes to artificial intelligence. But I can assure you, you can use them as a complementary research tool as for your work. And then finally, you will be able to have at least one creative method that you can adapt to your doctoral research that could help you at the end of the day. So I'm hoping that those are the expected outcomes today. Yeah. So for our key concepts today, what is an archive, visual heritage, design-led research, or practice-led research, or co-design, as they call it, and what are algorithms, and then why creative methods matter in design research. Some of them in pure sciences, they have challenges when we speak about creative methods. They're a bit concerned. How does it converge? How does it merge with what they do? But some of them I have seen have practiced what we call creative methods, but they haven't given it a name, right? So as we go along, they'll understand. We have some scientists here. Yeah, so start with visual heritage. It's called graphic heritage. It's also interchanged with cultural heritage. Everybody talks about it, but for the context of this particular workshop, we call it visual heritage. And visual heritage is the collection of visual cultural expressions, art, media, graphic systems, architecture, symbols, and artifacts that represent, preserve, and transmits a society's identity and history across generations. Every one of us has a background where we're coming from. We have a history, and we have unique identifiers or markers that tell us who we are, where we're coming from, our origins that are unique to us. Not, I think everybody in this room, if we want to see from the different parts of the world where we come from, some are from Asia, some are from Europe, Africa. But then again, apart from our appearances, there are some things that show who we are. Could be language, could be dressing, could be the way we talk, and other things. But for visual heritage, those things we see and interact with that are really tangible, that's what visual heritage tries to describe. And next, what is an archive? Specifically for this particular workshop, an archive is a collection of historical records and materials, physical or digital, or the place where such records are kept for reference and preservation. We all have images, our grandparents, great grandparents. We have current information right now in our mobile phones, on our social media handles. Some of them are not labeled, some of them are not tagged, but you just have them. They're not formally organized, but this is what we are trying to achieve. They all constitute what we call an archive, right? So they say you have a photo archive, you're scrolling through your gallery, that is an archive. It saves your documents, either a physical one, like the albums you have at home, the calendars and other resources and formats where these archives take place. So that's what it is. And then design-led research, of course, is also interchanged with practice-led, but for me, I call it hands-on research. Hands-on research. It is a research approach that uses design processes like prototyping, storytelling, experimentation, storyboarding, sketching, conceptual jotting down of information to generate knowledge, solve complex problems, and bridge theory and practice innovation. It's a key concept that we do. That most times it's not fully defined, but this is what it is, design-led research. The algorithm, the almighty algorithm, we hear about it. The computer scientist has his own definition. Everyone has their own definition, but for us here today, our definition is a finite set of clear, step-by-step instructions used to solve a problem or perform a computation. In digital archiving, algorithms are used to store, to organize, to secure, and retrieve digital content effectively or efficiently while ensuring long-term preservation and data integrity. Let me buttress that for you. When we talk about the concept of algorithm and organizing, storing, extracting data, we also have to see it from different perspectives so that we have a broader understanding of what exactly it is. So for example, you can say algorithms divide and conquer. What does that mean in essence? It means that you break down problems into smaller bits for them to be digestible or understandable. Another way you can approach your algorithm is by greedy approach, where you select the immediate best action for that problem you're trying to solve. Another approach is the dynamic programming, whereby you solve sub-problems and record them to avoid recalculation. There are times when you go on the field or you're extracting data and you have to make good use of what you have at that particular time, document it, record it, so you don't have to go back again to get that information because time may have been lost or the place is inaccessible and several other challenges you might encounter. So it's best you address the sub problem at that point, document it, get that information and keep it so that you don't have to repeat the process again. And then is what we call backtracking. Backtracking simply says you search for solutions by trying all possibilities. There are some disciplines, I'm not going to mention any, that are just straightforward. They think of a problem and they find one solution and that's it. But you can think of multiple ways, multiple possibilities to approach a problem. And that's where creative methods come in. They'll allow you to explore a variety of solutions or problem solving processes to arrive at the best one at the end of the day. So you're going to try a lot of solutions or processes to arrive at a preferred solution. So why do creative methods matter in doctoral research? I'm sure your supervisors may not be happy when you come with your sketches, you're talking about a scientific problem and you're coming with drawings. They may not be happy, but I tell you, most times it helps you to visualize your idea. It helps you to document them swiftly and very accurately. Think of a courtroom and let's say a celebrity is having a case or being charged for something and cameras are not allowed, but there's an artist in the room and the artist is able to document the judge's expression, jury, the defendant, the accused, all of that. And then the images come out. At least it gives you some semblance of what transpired in the courtroom, even though many people are maybe restricted from saying what transpired in there. Of course, the jury would tell you what happened. The judge is not at liberty to say, but some images will tell you, those illustrations. And like they say, photographs tell 1,000,000 words or 1,000 words, as they call it. So creative methods really do matter. So creative methods in doctoral research enhance your data collection by using innovative techniques like drawing, poetry, or photo elicitation to gain deeper insights. It also helps you to address complex research questions that traditional methods may not capture. There's some questions you ask people during an interview phase, or let's say a group session, a focus group. There are some things you may not extract from them. But if you apply some creative methods, which we're going to talk about, it will help you extract that data that ordinarily the one-off or the interviews may not be able to give you. And then it also encourages stronger participant engagement. I'm speaking from experience though, and promotes interdisciplinary collaboration. It also enables researchers to explore complex topics in more innovative, meaningful, and impactful ways. So This is a bonus for you because I know we're multidisciplinary here. And I know that research is a very difficult time. I can tell you my story, but we don't have all day. I did my PhD for 7 years because I was working. It was a part-time one. So trust me when I say 7 years on something, I think I'm a veteran in that field. It was not easy. So whenever I have the opportunity to speak to doctoral students, I try my best to also give from what I've experienced to help them in any way whatsoever that could enhance their work. So if any of the stages here resonates with you, I'll be very happy to know that. Yeah. So before you get on the field work, of course, is very important. I think I spoke to Will the other day, and Will said his field work was in France, somewhere in France. So most times your research takes you out of your comfort zone. You go to different places to go extract data, whether via interviews with people, documenting the area. There's a lot of work that's required on the field. And it's an important component of your research, whether we like it or not. And regardless of your discipline, field work is essential. So we look at why field work is really important for each and every one of us here. But the major thing about your research is always a problem. They say all research starts with a problem or a question that you're trying to find answers to, depending on your discipline. So the problem identification, number one, is critical. You need to know what your problem is. Even at the stage of applying for a PhD, you need to know what your problem is. Because your potential supervisor needs to know if that aligns with their area of interest. So they will ask, is it in alignment? What is the problem? So the problem includes the who, the what, the where, when, how, all of those questions come to play when you're trying to identify your problem. So who is being affected by this problem? What is the problem I'm trying to solve? What is the solution I'm trying to prefer? Where is this problem located? Who are those in charge of, finding the solution or helping me with information? Where can I source information that will help this research come to light? Or for me to even find out if indeed there is a problem. Because most times when you're having conversations with people, it's when you realize that this my research doesn't make sense. It is not researchable. It is not valid. You now have to go back to the drawing board again to rethink a problem. That's why whenever I'm trying to do a research, I always focus on my own place, where I'm coming from, or familiar areas that I'm familiar with the problem and I'm trying to find a solution. So I don't assume or presume that something is existing, creating a problem that does not exist just because I want to research. No, it doesn't make sense. And that also helps you when you're writing your grants, you're looking for funding, you need to know what kind of problems are the funders trying to solve. Who are the target audience or the target community they're trying to help? You need to have all those things in alignment with it. So problem identification, step one, is really important. Then a reconnaissance visit, very important. When you have identified who you're trying to create a solution for or where the problem is located, you take a tour, a visit, go there, see what's happening. You may not go as a researcher because most times people frown at researchers. When they come, people are panicked. They feel you're coming to extract data from them and dump them like a use and dump kind of way. So people are really protective of their knowledge, their culture, and their experience. Many people are not open to strangers. So you're going to come in like a visitor, a silent visitor. You're not coming with the mindset of your cameras, your recording devices. You're not coming. You just want to pay a visit to get into the community, to have a feel of what is really going on. Perhaps you read about this problem in the newspapers or heard it online or somewhere, and you want to go see for yourself. You don't go there with the mindset of trying to extract data at that point. You want to go test. So it's either you're staying for a couple of days or you just want to know who's in charge, maybe the leaders of the community, like we call it knowledge keepers. You need to know who you can talk to. If there are some locations that they need, of course, language is a barrier, you need a translator. You need to know who you could talk to, who can translate the purpose of your visits. So after a while, you also need to know where you're going to stay. If you're going to come back, where you're going to stay. Are you going to stay with the locals? Are you going to stay in a hotel somewhere? You need to start factoring all of those things. So it's really critical to make a reconnaissance visit. And then when you are able to achieve that, then you look at the tools. What tools am I going to use for this particular research? Of course, your cameras are there, your recording devices are there, whatever you need. Of course, a translator. We have Google Translator at this point, but not all languages are covered. So you need to know if you're having a living or physical translator, a digital one, whatever tool you need. You need to start factoring that in. And then what kind of methods are you going to apply? The different methods. When you get on the field, you need to know what methods. You can't just go there blindly. When you go there, you start experiencing the environment, you start knowing what method applies. You can't just come at random and start applying all that you've learned in classroom, regurgitating what your professor may have taught you. You need to know which specific method applies to the specific audience you are addressing. And then your personnel and team. All researchers have team members. Your supervisor could be your co-producer, a team member. Your classmates having similar experiences or similar research topics could also be on your team. But then again, you should have key personnel on your team. There should be, where I'm coming from, you have to have a security guard. That is number one for your safety. Otherwise, anything you see, you take. That's what we say in Nigeria. Anything you see, you take. Some terrains are not safe. So you need to factor that, which we'll talk later about. Security or safety, very important. On your team, you need to have a security personnel, you need to have a translator, you need to have somebody like a research assistant, someone who will be able to write when you're having conversations, someone who will be able to jot down some notes, could be your phone, taking your notes and recording for you, but there's also somebody who will be able to bring out materials when you need them, carry your bag, all of that. And there are a variety of people that you can have on your team, depending on the kind of projects that you're having and the location. All right. Your sibling could also be part of your team if you trust them. Okay. And then your target audience, that is the community. You need to know them. You need to familiarize yourself with them, their customs, culture, their way of life. You need to know it so that you don't overstep your boundaries. They could have some communities you don't come out in the night as a woman. You need to cover up properly. There's several factors you need to consider when you're addressing your target audience or communicating with them. So you need to put that at the back of your mind, right? And then your budgets. That reconnaissance visit also helps you plan your budget. You know how much it took you to get there. You know how much it will take you to get back home. But when you're on the ground, I know many people talk about paying and affecting your data. There will be bias in your data if you had to pay people. But incentives really matter when it comes to research, especially when you want people to soften up to you, open up. You need to, you come in, yes, they're drinking one kind of water, it looks brownish to you. You know you're going to purge, have running tummy, but you just drink the water just to show that you're with them. Afterwards, you can come with a gift. Thank you for having me present something. You're not bribing them. You're just trying to soften your way in. It's part of research. A lot of people frown at it, but I can assure you, I can't leave Nigeria and go to a particular country and I don't even bring one thing. It won't make sense. And then on the field, when you're coming to talk to somebody, you know they are custodians of that knowledge, custodians of the data. You don't take something or you don't, show care. Like you come into a place, you help them clean up, or you're having a festival, you dress up with them, rub their masks, whatever they're doing, wear the costume, move with them. Just know your target audience is essential so that the information you seek will come out, even to some degree, it may not be 100%, but to some degree, you should be able to have authoritative data that can enrich your work. And then safety. We cannot overemphasize the need of safety. Where I'm from, I live in the southern part of Nigeria. Everybody knows Nigeria. So we're always in the news for one thing or the other. So the northern part is totally different from us, the southern part. The southern part, we're Christians. I can move like this, but some part of the north is not safe. There are Muslims there. Not like of course, we've been living in harmony for a good number of years, but of course, one or two things went on before we were separated, and then the divide is only getting wider by religious and, of course, ethnic issues and all of that. So if I had to go to the north, there's a way I'm going to present myself. I have to go with security. I have to take permission, probably write in advance, let people know I'm coming. There's so much protocol to do. And I believe that happens elsewhere. May not be security issues, but safety should be paramount whenever you're going to unknown places or places where you have no familiar person on ground, right? And if there were to be somebody who's familiar, the person will also let you know when to come out, what to do, who to talk to, how do you, of course, there's some places you can go to and keep your phone hanging. They're going to give you and take your phone, right? Snatch your phone from you. Even in developed countries, it happens all the time. So you have to be security conscious. Yeah. So we're going to start with the overview of our creative methods for visual heritage, or let's call it research. Research, why we're here. So creative research, everything we're doing falls under this. And creative methods for visual heritage, of course. Number one at the top of the list is critical visual analysis. It is a method used to interpret and understand images such as photographs, films, advertisements, charts, and graphs. When you see something, it's not just what you see. You begin to ask questions. Who made this? When was it made? Who was it made for? Several questions have to arise. You don't just look, glance, and give a one-sided interpretation of it. So you have to be critical in your thinking and in your analysis of what is before you, right? So I think we have an image. Yes. So that is our first work for today. So what do you see? I'm trying to make it as interactive as possible. So what do you see before you? Good. So you've identified the personalities. So what medium? I'm thinking posters. So here, please pass it down. This is how we're going to approach critical visual analysis. So what's the first question there? It's more or less like a bingo. You know, bingo, the game. Okay. So the first one is, what do you see there?
Subject of the image.
Yes. So the subjects begin to ask. Campaign posters, yes. You know, they're from different times. I don't want to be the one explaining. I just want you to see and begin to tell us what you see. So we're going to judge based on the medium, the who. Some of us may not know who made them, right? May not know who designed these things. So you need to understand the work process, the method applied, the context by which this was made, what it was made for, the meaning behind it, because certain things we see, they go beyond the ordinary. They have meaning. So what is the meaning behind this? So yes, if there's anybody online too, the person can also contribute to the discussion. All right. So I'm listening. The questions are before you. So
That is signifying something different where the other one doesn't have text, but the image occupies most of the
mhm.
is the flag, which is as well.
Okay. He identified something. He said one has text and one doesn't. Now, my question is, do you think the text influences the poster? Yeah. Well, how so? Why? Why do you say that?
giving a message,
Mhm.
trains.
All right. So if these two posters were to be presented to you on campaign day, take note, these are two different eras or two different times. But if they were both presented to you, what do you think? And tell me why. What do you think? How do you think it will influence your decision in voting for these two candidates, either one of them, and why? Yes, go
I
ahead.
kind of feel a power structure. The first one is like his eyes is look up, kind of I service the people,
Mhm.
and the other one the eyes is from up to down. It's like
Condescending.
yes, and a little hegemony, kind of. So that's my feeling.
Did you see that? She was able to spot something, right? She's looking at the gaze of the personalities, of the subjects here. One is gazing to the people, trying to connect with them, and the other one is completely condescending or looking down at them, so to speak. I don't know. So what else? That's a very good one, yeah. So remember, this is election day. The polity is heated up. Everyone is going. You're on the queue. You're trying to vote for somebody. So tell me, how does this influence your decision? Because that is the aim of this particular poster. It is to influence the polity, the people to vote. So forget what you hear in the media about these personalities. Because if you do that, it's going to influence your decision and that affects your research, right? That is where the bias comes in. If we had to look at a particular person and judge them based on their character at this point in time, the research is going to fail because now it's your personal bias that is overshadowing the outcome of your research, right? So assuming you see these two, we're looking at power, authority for the people, yes, and saying leadership personified. How are we able to translate that? So beautiful. Iman says, red used here reminds me of American flag colors, reminds me of the blood that the nation is built on. Oh, wow. Thank you, Iman. Yeah, did you get that? This was another another part of it. For a little child, they will say, of course, we know red, blue, and yellow to be primary colors. We also know that to be the symbol of the United States. We want to assume it's freedom, but there's another interpretation here: the blood that the country was built on. Are we allowed to say that in research? So that they don't say but this is another way of looking at this. However, there are two shades of red, Imam. What do you think about that? There are two different shades of red. Is it that one is more bloodied or both are? Because both of them are in the country. Let's not say who. We're not looking at the personalities at this point. But now we're looking at it as a holistic way of judging the country itself. So there are two shades of red, but red has meaning. And are we to say that this red is blood the country was built on, or it signifies passion that we know red for? Yeah. What do we see? What do we think?
One is more like traditional, like red, white, and blue, isn't it? Whereas
Mhm.
the other one is a different shade of blue. It's not even the shade of white, it's like cream.
Yeah.
So that one is more reflective of the American flag, which kind of like reflects the whole Americanness, like
Yeah.
traditional, like, you know, like traditional America. Whereas this one is like the colors are slightly different. They're the same palette,
Mhm.
same group of colors, but it's like slightly more muted, whereas that one is a bit more bold.
Bold and all that.
And like, yeah, I know you said not to bring our preconceived notions, but
Yeah.
it also represents like the difference in personality.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, when it comes to your research, these are the kind of conversations that will come up personally in your head or with your team. You begin to analyze images such that you're able to extract even the unseen things. Because when I came here today, I did not expect to hear this, but I'm seeing that you're seeing it from a different way. And I mean, if I was in a different setup, there will be other interpretations of meaning from this, right? So is that okay, sir? Next, typography storytelling, visual storytelling, sketching, drawing, storyboarding. That's my field. I mean, they say everybody is an artist. We all are artists. I mean, when someone is talking, you're jotting down something, you're scribbling, so they call it. But then again, once you start giving form to movement or to the lines, you start drawing and be giving visuals to what your idea is, or a visualization of what is being taught to you or what is being told to you, you start documenting. So it's one of the creative research methods, documenting. In my own, where I'm trained, everything is visual. As the lecturer is talking, you're sketching what he's saying. We call it data visualization. It's not even the data visualization we do now with our laptops, AI, and all of that. No, you are taking notes, sketching. For instance, you go for a meeting and the client is telling you, giving you a brief on what they want. Do you know that you can secure that job on the spot if you're able to present a visual for the person? It helps you make faster decisions. It helps all the time. In fact, it has happened. So that's why I'm speaking from that angle. So visual storytelling uses images, symbols, layouts, and visual sequences to communicate ideas, narratives, or research insights. If you had to go to your supervisor and you sketch something, I mean, the person may be like, did you need to do this? I prefer an explanation or a write-up, a proper essay. Well, most times you can come with a sketch. This is what I saw, this is what I experienced, and it adds more flavor. If you ask me, I'm biased. I'm a visual artist, so I'm a bit biased when it comes to that. So in creative research, it helps present complex information in engaging and accessible visual forms. And typographic storytelling, which we'll see in the next one, is the use of typefaces, that is what we call typography, fonts, letter forms, writing, hierarchy, placing of bold to small text for captions and other forms, that is to give it some level of balance in terms of readability and legibility, spacing and layout, all to convey meaning, emotion, and narrative. You can't give a jumbled up story. You cannot just throw text to pass on information. It will not be good enough. But most times, if a visual is well structured and it also accompanies an image, it makes it more interesting to look at, right? And then it's very important for visual. It's a visual tool for interpreting and communicating concepts and cultural messages. For example, I was in the North Bigelow incubator. I don't know if you know about that, from Stanford University, where they chose some of us as fellows to come and design typography that represents our culture. That was sometime in June last year. And I was able to research, go back into my culture and find out some visual writing systems that had existed. They look like the hieroglyphics in Egypt, but we have our own as well. I didn't know this prior to that time. So in trying to search for what best represents us as a people, I did my research and I found these writing ideograms, as they call it, those ones that look like images, but they're all writings. And I was able to extract from that to create a full complete typeface. It's called in CBD. It's one of my own, and a lot of people are doing that. So I was able to communicate our cultural messages because those ideograms, they meant something. So I didn't use the meaning per se, but the form I used to create my Latin inspired typography, because we were to decolonize the Latin text because we're all using that. However, how do we communicate our own kind of messaging without type? And that's what I was able to do. And then sketching. Sketching, we all know, is a quick exploratory drawing method used to visualize ideas, concepts, and observations, just like I explained earlier. You're just sketching, sketching, sketching. And in our research, sketching supports ideation, which is the first part. of communicating your ideation. You begin to think about it, the conceptualization phase, you begin to put that down, reflection and the development of design solutions during your research process. So it helps you to achieve that. So imagine this. You know what this is? Have you seen this before? Yes, no? Okay. Sorry, let me try and trace my images. So this is what we call Queen Idia's head. It's very popular in Nigeria. It's one of the artifacts that were stolen during the expedition at some point. Have you heard of the expedition that happened in Nigeria sometime in the 19th century? Okay. So this is one of artifacts. It's an ivory head, let's call it, but for the Queen of Benin. It's called the Idia head. And it was used as the symbol for the first TAC 77. It was a cultural festival, black arts and craft festival. So people from, I think Steve Wonder came to Nigeria. It was one of the biggest festivals in Nigeria in 1977. So here we see the mask, just one image, used to create a cohesive information, which was the catalog cover of the First Act 77 poster, the catalog cover, and other printable materials. So another creative methodology that we use is what we call participatory approach. Have you heard of co-creation, co-participation? It's the in thing now. Everybody's talking about it. So it is a research method that actively involves participants or community members in your research process, allowing them to contribute their knowledge, their experiences, and perspectives. And in creative research, it encourages collaboration, shared decision-making, and co-creation of ideas or solutions between researchers and participants. Like I mentioned earlier, you do not just go into a community and think you want to extract information. People are now aware of the value of their culture. They're more aware of the value of where they come from. So it is important to know that when you're going in there, you need to co-create with them. You need to consider them in the decision-making process, the design-making process, because they are the ones that are affected by either the problem or the challenge that is on ground. So you should consider their input as a valuable resource for your research. You cannot say we're going to create and then you go ask all the questions, take all the answers and go. You have to find out what would they like, and visualization helps you with that. If I was to talk with them and as they're explaining, I begin to sketch out some ideas I feel would be valuable to them. They could look at it and say, no, this is not quite good. This reminds me of when I was younger. I used to play here and there was this building. It had this symbol here, this symbol here. I would prefer if you could do it like this. That's input. That's input. The person could tell you, remove this, can you add this? Or this name is not spelled properly, or it is not pronounced this way. You can pronounce it this way. It now helps you to start. And that is the engagement, the co-production, because you're asking and they're giving back. And they're adding to it and extra subtracting from what you put there. So you also go back to them for feedback. This is the solution I've created. What do you think? They look at it and say, no, we don't know how to use apps here. We don't have lights to power our devices. So this app will make sense to us. It helps you go back to the drawing table to see the best solution for them. So that also helps you in the co-production process, which is one of the projects I did during my master's, where I designed the mobile app for tourism of the cultural festival in my country, Nigeria, where I'm from, Opobo International Boat Racing and Regatta Festival. So while I was there, I spent a lot of time. One might say, okay, because you're from that place, you have access. No, I'm married into that place. So the language is a barrier. My husband was unavailable to be with me on the ground. So, but he gave me some key contacts. And when I got there, I had to adjust. I had to let them know this is what I was doing. Although the project ended as a prototype, right? But the step-by-step approach to arriving at the end was based on my connection and interaction with them, and then their participation, their giving back and engagement with me. So another one is Photo Voice, Caroline Wang, Mary Ann Burris. This is Photo Voice. People think Photo Voice is just taking photographs and describing your photographs. It's not always the case. Photo Voice allows participants, it's another offshoot of participatory or co-production, participatory research, where you allow the participants, be active members of the research. You could come with your cameras, and this time you're not the shooter or the photographer. You allow them take photographs. Do you know that during this same festival where I designed the app for, there, of course, a lot of youth are there. Between 28th of December to the 15th of January, you have more than 1 million people there. They attend that boat racing regatta festival on the Atlantic. And a lot of youth know where they are from. They know their father's house. They know some parts of, of course, their neighbor, their cousins, and all of that, because it's a large community, 14 founding houses, 64, about 56 to 64 war canoe houses. They fought for the British at some point. They were that strong. So that's where I'm married into. Many of them hadn't done a tour, a formal tour of that place. And one of the ways I was able to engage with them, especially the young ones, a lot of them were out of school. Many of them had no money to go back to school, but they are from that place. But they were not, of course, they know these places, but they didn't know that someone from outside looking in is seeing something valuable in their community from the history of King Jaja of Opobo. If you can look him up. Very strong economic trader. He was a slave as well, or a slave trader. From being a slave, he became a slave trader, and he was instrumental in growing the, let's call it the island state or a city state that we know as Opobo today. He was very instrumental in fighting for Queen Victoria, the Ashanti Wars. He was able to paddle on the Atlantic with his war boats to go and claim victory for the British government. But at some point, he was exiled and died in the Caribbean. But there's a rich history there. There's rich language, rich artifacts. And also what I was able to do using Photo Voice was to do a tour of their community, not only for the out of school children, of course, who have mental challenges, because when you're out of school, you'll have a lot of time on your hands to engage in nefarious or negative vices. So when I got there, of course, I got my tour guide with me, and I proposed that we go around the town documenting these monuments, these sites, and these cultural artifacts that are contained in that community. And we're able to provide cameras for them. I also encourage them to use mobile phones, because you cannot do away with, of course, the mobile phone has a camera. So we came with multiple cameras, multiple phones, and asked them to document their own places and to tell us more about it. So that was how we were able to use Photo Voice. So it is a research method that allows participants to express their experiences, perspectives, or on any of the issues, and then to contribute to the discussion and reflect on social change. So we move on to art-based and embodied methods. I've been following the work of Dr. Helen Kara. She has written a lot of material when it comes to creative research methods, art-based and embodied methods. And like I mentioned earlier, these are things that we have been practicing, but not a lot of people know what it's called. They could just say, I am drawing, or I drew this idea, or I sketched this idea, or I interacted with these people. Oh, I went to this community. At the end of the day, we painted this wall. In summation, These are art-based methods and embodied methods. Embodied methods could be dancing, could be poetry, could be book reading sessions, could be other sensory methods, right? So it is a research approach that uses artistic activities such as drawing, music, storytelling, or performance and bodily experience to explore emotions, health, and well-being, often supporting healing and expression in healthcare contexts. So I was privileged to be on what we call the Arts in Medicine Fellowship. I don't know who has heard of it. It's now called the Global Arts in Medicine Fellowship. And I went on to become the country director for Nigeria, for West Africa. So Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Cameroon, and all. What we tried to do was to ensure that hospices, hospitals, caregivers, and healthcare professionals are all engaged, even the patients. They're engaged in creative practices that can either speed up healing or reduce the challenges that they're going through. So imagine if you had somebody who was sick in the hospital and you had to spend probably a week with them. You sit by their bedside, you get up, the whole hospital scenario, we know what it is. If you've ever been to the hospital, even as a visitor, it's not easy on the body. But imagine having a music session. Imagine having a painting session. I've been privileged to work with the pediatric ward for little children, children who have cancer, children who have long-term illnesses. We've had that sessions with them. So for the space of, let's say, 5 to 10, 15 minutes, they forget their worries. The outcomes are, I feel better. Oh, I loved this. Can you come again? You hear things like that. Those are the kind of feedbacks that we get from these kind of methods. There are also people that have end of life care who never had, of course, they just want one more chance to maybe draw something or paint something, something that their family members can remember them by. We've done music sessions, we've done painting sessions, we've done mural sessions to ensure that these places are beautified, to encourage well-being and wellness. I mean, if a place is well painted, you have these artistic things there. This is one of them, broken but unrestricted. This was one of the projects that I mentored during the fellowship. This was, I think, cohort 5. They painted this on a wall. It was 10 by 6, 10 feet by 6 feet. It was that big. So this was the design, of course, the digital design before we went on to paint it. So it's another essential method. And it includes, so we look at algorithmic interpretation of archival texts and images. The algorithm always tells you something. It shows you something. It helps you to interpret. And a lot of people feel like it is not the final authority. I agree. The algorithm or the artificial intelligence interpretation of images or text is not the final authority. It just adds to it. So you, as the researcher, you need to draw the lines between who owns the authority. Is this the final say? Remember, the artificial intelligence is fed by what you give it in. If you do not give it a prompt, or if the data is not properly fed, like, of course, the data is biased, obviously, but if the information is not true, is not right, it only gives you what it sees. It does not have the deeper context of what you have presented to it. So it only gives you the surface value of a particular information. You have to do due diligence to be able to complete that finding. For instance, if I were to impute this image, this one, just one of them, not two, the one I showed you earlier, right? If I was to put this one, it will give me a surface value. Unless it has been trained with the information, the source, the material content, the context, what we call metadata. If it has been trained with the metadata, that is the only time when it can give us a complete information, or what we can say, agree that it's a complete information. But if it has never seen this image, it's something maybe you just took for the first time somewhere, but this one exists on the internet. So I believe that if we had to feed it to an AI source, an AI system, it should be able to give us some information because this is very old and it has been on the internet for a long time. However, we use computational methods to analyze, organize, and interpret historical images and documents to reveal patterns, meanings, or insights. While they may not be final or total or authoritative, it helps us to get somewhere with what we can see. So oftentimes during your research, you have deadlines to meet. You need to analyze something quickly to be able to make a presentation, maybe to your supervisor or someone, right? Artificial intelligence or the algorithm can help you in sourcing for the information if you don't have it, help you organize, provide the metadata for it that can help you at least on the surface. So going back to the art-based and embodied methods, I mentioned poetry, music, dance, theater, and the visual arts. That is our area. And we can see, of course, from creative research methods in social sciences. This is from Helen Keller. We see that in every method or approach, there are opportunities and there are challenges. Like everything, there's the merit and demerit, advantage and disadvantages. So some of the opportunities that these arts and embodied methods can help us gain is sensitive or emotional topics can be discussed. For instance, the time that we spend with people in hospital, there's some people who are vulnerable. They feel their stories cannot be told, or people don't understand them, people don't hear them. You can approach this way, the challenge with this creative method. People can open up and tell you their story. I was maybe drunk and I was alcoholic and thereby got liver problem. That's why I'm in the hospital. A lot of times people feel ashamed. They may not want to tell you that, right? But when you're painting with them, you can tell them, paint your situation or paint your experience, and then they paint, and then they're able to tell you what actually happened. So sometimes the opportunity lies in having sensitive and emotional topics being unraveled. Then most times arts-based approaches transcend language barriers. Visuals help because even gestures, someone can do maybe a thumbs up, everybody knows that's okay or good, carry on, right? Thumbs down means no, no, no bueno, things like that, right? So language barriers can be overcome by using art-based methods. Cognitive impairments, we all know that there are people who don't see or have other senses active. So they can, you know, do some certain things, some certain creative work. They may not be seeing, but they can touch. There's a braille function. There are different kinds of function that they can touch, they can read, and then they can also create. So it also helps us to work with those people. Then children and young people. I've worked with children and young people for the vast, the longest. So children and young people, do you know that art helps them get organized? Yes, they may look, of course, art could look rowdy, could look, chaotic. But there are some children who have temper issues, tantrum issues, issues with being focused. Artistic practices help them to be more streamlined in their behavior, even if it's for a minute or two. You can see that there's a difference. And just like a child who can sit still in a public place, they're running up and down. And then you bring out crayons. That's the first trick. You bring out crayons, drawing pencils, and paper. They'll sit still for a bit. I promise you. You want us to test it? You may have experienced it before, right? This happens all the time. However, there's some challenges. When we create, and of course, we've engaged with creative practices, how do we begin to analyze them? How do we begin to put it down in paper saying this was the process we engaged in, this was the outcome? It's oftentimes very difficult to analyze because the experience may not have been documented, or even though it was documented, in what way that really translates to what we know as research. Because at the end of the day, we want the final product, we want the final research in essay format, in text format, in textual analysis. So analysis could also be a challenge. right, in trying to communicate that research practice that we used. Then the skill of the participants. Not all participants are skilled. Not all facilitators are skilled. Do you know that? Most times you go on the field, you're applying research practices. Not all facilitators or participants are interested in that. For example, the caveat for this workshop is come as you are. You don't have to have creative skills, drawing skills and all that. That's not required. However, if I were to ask you to sketch, it's anything you sketch is what we're going to take. I'm not expecting you to be a Picasso in this workshop, right? But most times when you go out there, people will just say, oh, they'll shy away from it because, oh, I don't know how to draw. So that is the first drawback. And that could be a challenge because they wouldn't engage in the particular exercise or activity that you have for them. And then reception of audiences. Not everybody is open to creative stuff. When they hear creative, the first thing that comes to mind is drawing, painting, clay work, all of that. They don't understand that it's beyond that. Mode of expression is what we know as creative practices, your mode of expression. It could come in audiovisual form, it could come in textual format. It depends on how you want to approach it. But a lot of people will say, oh, I can't do it, so I don't want to be a part of it. And then the skill of the evaluators, those who are evaluating the research, the creative research method. Some of them may not be skilled enough to articulate the findings, articulate the process, and all of that. So it affects the overall outcome of that research. So those are some of the challenges. So this is me, one of the projects I did 2022, Sip and Paint for youth. There's what we call ASU strike, Academic Staff Union of Universities. So this image to your left, I believe is your left. They call it industrial action here, where lecturers go on strike for no payment or being underpaid, poor welfare, and all of that. So I had already scheduled this workshop as part of my project for the Arts in Medicine Fellowship with the youth, the students in the university environment. And all of a sudden, there was a strike. That is the ASU strike. It took place. So I had to put on my thinking hat. I now got a free space near my house, a very massive field, and brought the students who are around. This was my target audience, but these were not the people I was actually looking for because I wanted a mix of students, those in medicine, those in engineering, all those who did not have any artistic background, but they were going through something because it was mental health that I was focusing on. So I was able to get some of them at the end of the day. It was a very successful event. Many of them started singing. I didn't even know that there were choristers there. So they were singing as they were walking. And then we had interview sessions where, of course, after the Sip and Paint, they were more open to engaging with me and interacting with me. So they were able to tell me, oh, this is what they're going through. Some of them hadn't paid fees. Some of them were going through emotional stuff. Parents were not together. So many things were, revealed. Things I didn't know could come out. Yeah. And then another one was another creative approach, marbling, experimentation, where we did some creative work, trying to avoid waste in the environment. So papers that were used prior and some waste ink, we used that to create some backdrop for artistic pieces. And then we had an origami project for youth again, working with children and the youth. And then, of course, the children art workshop, where we did collages and leaf prints and other processes. And then you find out that children whose parents ordinarily would tell them, no, art is not a subject to study. You find them that they're happier and more engaged in the art program. Usually it runs for 3 days, and you see the children show up every time, enthusiastic, very excited. They come, they just drop their bags, they run, they grab a seat, take their paper. You can see that that's not the way most of them are interact with their class and their class for regular subjects. But when we organize these workshops, these children come, they're really happy. Their parents have to pay. Some of them are paid, some are not paid. But usually we ensure that they pay so that the children could have refreshments or something to eat and then give bags at the end of the workshop. So data gathering for art-based research includes technology, the use of technology. We use videos, we use a lot of photographs, we use a lot of film. Then enhanced interviewing. Enhanced interviewing, you could use cameras to interview, like they do in an interrogation room, but you can also do it subtly with the camera. You ask for consent. Consent is very important, of course, before you take one's photograph. You take their photograph, you interview them with recording devices, and then you also have probably your focus groups where more than one person is there, a variety of people and your target audience. And then writing and poetic inquiry and journaling. Journaling is very key. People write down their thoughts, and journals can also be a great resource for your research. It's either your journaling or people's journals can also give you insight on how they feel, all those who are not even open enough to have conversation. And then mapping. Mapping is really good to trace the beginning, the end of your research, where this research is located, the format you're going to use, right? The roadmap, the timeline. Mapping is very essential. And then for the people that you're also interviewing, where are they located? You begin to map out the structure of where they are, what they're doing, and what you're expecting to get. And then, of course, drawing is also a way of gathering data, painting, collage, and what have you. Then embodied methods. Of course, like every research method, there are the good sides and the bad sides, the ups and the downs. So for opportunities, we have sensory research, where, of course, how people feel. See, they're sensitive from their vision, sensitive for their touch, putting their hands to work, very important. So pottery making, painting, and other ways of sensory gathering of information, fuller understanding of lived experience. You get to engage with them when they're using their hands, their legs, their feet, they're talking to you, eye contact, and all of that. They begin to narrate, they begin to tell you. So that's some of the opportunities you gain from using embodied research. Dance, movements. You can see sometimes when people are dancing, you know their mood. You can gain expression from them, their emotion, gauge it. And then it reduces stress, grief, and loss. One of those things. There's some people who just need a hug when they're going through a lot. Don't say anything. Don't talk too much. They just need a hug. And once you're able to hug them, welcome them, sit by them, it helps in your research. And then it helps with sports, manual activity. We know that, of course, vitamin D, sunshine, you go outdoors, activity, people are moving, people are active. It also helps in your research process. Challenges, oftentimes they say it's irrelevant. People feel that, why should we do this? How is this valuable to my research? Is it important? Is it viable? They begin to ask that, and they say, this is one-sided. I'm the one organizing this. What the other person on the other side of things would be like, what's the benefit for me? Okay, I come and dance for 5 minutes, or you come and hug me. Okay, I don't even want you to hug me. Please stay on your own. There are a lot of issues that come out of that. Of course, it may be disorienting or disturbing. You get into the hospital, you want to pet somebody, you want to touch somebody, your hands are not clean, unhygienic. A lot of people feel like you shouldn't come close to them. This movement, I can't get up from my bed. I'm not well enough to do that. Don't you see what I'm going through? Are you not empathetic? Things like that. And then, of course, how important is my body to this research? Why should I participate this way? Why should this method be applied to me? These are the kind of questions that arise and then give challenges to it. And then, what's the last one? Past and present become blurred. There's a blur, the lines are blurred between what transpired before and what is ongoing. A lot of people miss the information that we're trying to communicate in between. So that affects the research output. And then using of technology. Technology comes in different ways. We mentioned them. There's a photography, there's a film, there's adverts, um, recordings, different technology, of course, all of that. What it does for us is that it helps us save time. It helps us save money. It will be easier on many participants. And big and open data, I mean, large number of people can be addressed at a particular time. A large number of people can be interviewed at a particular time. Just a lot of data can be extracted with that. But there are some challenges depending on where you're going and where you're located. Access could be a challenge. Access to power, for us, access, getting into a place could be daunting. Yeah, you may not have the right connections to go and address a particular space. Technology non-compliance is always a problem. There are some people who are not tech savvy. So you're going to them with these big tech, big words, big tech. They're all panicked. They're like, come down to our level, please. Can you bring it down a notch? And then power, where I'm from, power is an issue. You could be talking and power will go out. They call it blackouts, those fancy names. We call it NEPA. NEPA is taking lights. Put on the generator. We go pull our power and then start again. There's time lost in between. We're trying to get power. So for me, if I'm planning a research, I have to carry my torch, carry extra lights, candles, whatever will provide light for me. Maybe a mini generator to help me. So power could be a challenge where you are. There could also be power outage, right? Summit talked about flooding. Flooding can affect power in certain places. So if you're going to research, you have to factor that in. And then internet availability. Not everywhere has internet coverage. So that might also pose a problem when using technology. All right, so we have an activity for us. I don't know why I'm showing 111. Okay, just ignore the typographical error. So we want to explore how algorithms shape our image search. So some of you have your computers in front of you. Unfortunately, I cannot demonstrate, right? But I want you to think of a time when you searched for an image online. A lot of us open Google. That's the first port of call. We want to search for an image, we go to Google. Once it opens, we go to where they write images, right? And then click on it. So for instance, you're looking for apples, right? And then you open Google and then you go straight to images. And Google gives you apples in a variety of ways. Illustrated apple, apple without a background, green apple, red apple, blue apple, whatever you want. Okay? So the question is, how did the search engine decide what you saw first? I mean, this is a no-brainer. We all know that. How did it decide what you saw first?
Keyword.
Keyword search. Yes, that's on your keyword. You had to impute something, right? And that was a keyword that you were looking for. So we were supposed to do that exercise where we're going to open any open source archive online. There's a British Library, Smithsonian Open Access. If you have your computer, you can go there. There's archive.org, so many of them. So once you open, perhaps I should use my system for those of us here online. I'm sorry, but you can join us, right? So if you have your computer, you have your phone, you have your computer, you have your phone, just open any of them, right? You could also use Google if you want. So, well, let me just allow you guys this. So once you open it, don't do anything. You can open any of them. Don't do anything. So let's take, for instance, the Smithsonian one, or the British Library, or archive.org, or any local heritage collection that you have. Remember, we're working with the digital for now. We're not doing any one. If not, I will tell Kirian to let us go into the library and bring out some books or some things, right? So we're not doing that right now. We're looking online. All right. So the first thing you do, for example, I'm here. So this is mine. So I'm here, Smithsonian Open Access. You can use the British Library, use European, any of them. So they have some buttons there, right? You're going to see visit, what's on, explore, learn, support us, and about. So where I am is just the open access one. But if you scroll down, there are other places you can get images. So it says search open access media. So she mentioned keywords, right? And you're going to input a keyword of your choice, right? You're going to search for any image, about 6 to 8 of them. You're going to use the first one is, if you were using the Smithsonian, it says here, explore. Explore. So you're going to explore without using any keywords, right? The second one is to scroll to where it says you can search. Search. And then you can just keep browsing, and then they have all the categories there for you. So per choice, if for instance you say you're looking for African masks, right? I can specifically drop that keyword in the search box and something will come out. If they have it in their archive, it will come out. So once it comes out, you have used 3 different methods to search. One, which is serendipity. You just happen to search. That is how the algorithm pushes things to us, even before our keywords and even after our keywords. Do you know that? I'm sure you've encountered that. Most times, your phone can show you some clothes that you never wanted to buy because you had a conversation with somebody. I want to buy some dresses today. And next thing you open, you see Amazon showing, you see Temu, everything starts popping up. Of course, your phone already has that voice recognition system. It's one of the input devices that helps the algorithm shape what you see and how you make purchases. It is already pre-installed. You have to go and deactivate it in your phone. There's a technical aspect to it. So when you're able to do that, you will see some differences. You're not, the first bit, remember you're not putting any keyword. The first one, you're just scrolling through, right? And you're seeing the explore. They have a variety of archives there. The ones for magazines, the ones for traditional information. You're seeing the ones for teens, illustrated books. There are different categories, right? So you could click on one of the categories without putting a keyword. And then next, you can also just browse that, then search specifically for what you want. Remember, you have looked around, but you're looking for something. And then you key it in. And then the third bit, you now see the outcome. So if you're able to do that, you can now bring out 6 to 8 images and judge them based on the keyword search, algorithmic recommendation, and just random browsing, which you have done, those 3 methods. So you can analyze or judge what was presented to you by the algorithm based off of what you were able to retrieve. Has anybody been able to complete this exercise? Anybody? Were you able to get a few images out?
Yeah.
Yes. So are there any differences?
Yeah, I mean, the first one, when I just went randomly without any, it just showed me like from different genres, if I may say so.
Okay.
And then obviously when I had given it a keyword, it was very specific, targeted, but then obviously I had to further filter it down to exact, because it showed me like image collections, image sets, 3D objects and things and so forth. So I specifically went for graphic material.
Okay.
So it showed me like different genres within that topic itself. So yeah, it sort
Yes.
of gave me different directions to it.
Okay. So how does the algorithm shape what we see and what we don't see? Did it give you exactly what you wanted to see?
I don't know.
Good one.
I don't know because I wasn't really thinking about it. It was just like a random thought in my head. I like what I see, but I don't know if that's what I was.
What is what you want?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So where are we here? The next one, of course, what stories are made visible or invisible depending on your search path? So that is the follow-up question for our search. So what was made visible or invisible? Remember, you're looking for something. So what did it show you? And what didn't it show you? Can you be able to answer that?
Give you my Google example if you like.
Yes, please, go ahead, yeah.
So I was looking for hearing loops because it's something we've been looking into recently anyway.
Okay.
On Google, the very first thing it gives you is like 10 shopping ways to buy them. And then below that is then how they work, more information about the system itself.
Yes.
So yeah, the first thing is spend money.
Yes. Do you see how to prioritize? Are you listening to him? He has said two key things now. He was looking for something, and the first thing he gave him was where to buy those things, right? How to spend your money. And then the workability of it, right? That was the second. So what was the third layer to this search? Has it told you how it functions?
Yes, yeah, there's an explanation of what that system is and how it works, yeah.
Yeah. So I think then you can now know which one to click on, and then the kind of information you now start getting more. But it has prioritized what it wants to tell you so that you can now make your decision. Could be a purchase decision, could be a research decision, whatever it is. But it has made visible some things and has made invisible some things, depending on how it is layered, right? And some information is not there, but some are there. The key ones are in front at the top, and that is how the algorithm works for us in visual research. And that helps us to also prioritize the kind of information that we put out there. When someone comes to see something, the first thing we want to know is maybe date of production, where it was made, who it was made for, how it works, how it functions. Those are the key information that you're going to get at the top, and then under it, it can tell you the caveats. Most times you see them they call it the fine print. It's little. They don't project that one. It's always hidden. So that is how it works. The algorithm works. It projects the major ones in front, the ones it makes you to make decisions. That's what it makes visible. And then the invisible ones are the hidden information that are not even there. Or if they're there, they're either missing or not really clear for everybody to see. All right. So now you want to interpret using the algorithm. Like I explained, in research, you're going to use AI to read or interpret your images to help you just hasten up the process. That's what I call it. A lot of people say they use a lot of fancy words. I don't use fancy words because I don't want to overcomplicate things for myself, and you shouldn't if you ask me. So you're going to run 2 to 3 images through an image recognition tool. They're all there. Who has Google Lens in your phone? Google Lens works wonders. You can just it scans images, and it gives you a metadata of what the images are. So and record the algorithm labels and note any mismatches or cultural blind spots. I like to do this with artifacts, not my face, not personal information. I just like to do it with random images. So if you can take the picture directly, right? You want to just see what AI has to do, run, or you can use the ones you have downloaded if you want. Yes. Yes, I think so. We have time.
Yeah,
Okay, you have one. Oh, sorry about that. So Google Lens is there, and there's so many other image recognition tools you can use. Yeah. So we want to see the labels there. Remember, if you are familiar with a particular image, a place, or a thing, you will be able to name it. You'll be able to date it, give it a date, give it a name, give it other information regarding size, the medium, then all of that. So we're trying to see how the AI is going to label what you show it. And then your role now will be to note any mismatches with the images, because there's some knowledge you have about that particular image that the AI may not necessarily have, right? And then check for any cultural blind spots. You can note that artificial intelligence is trained by people of a certain background, and that affects the kind of information that comes in, okay? There's a kind of information that will come from a particular tribe or culture that cannot be interpreted by the algorithm or the artificial intelligence tool. Okay, so your role will be to go deeper in the research, but this gives you something. So your role will be to note any of the labels that we're giving or any mismatches, and your role is to correct that. Correct that, because you don't want a research at the end of the day that is not informative enough or truthful in its findings. Okay, so where did the algorithm misinterpret cultural meaning? Did you see the images I sent? Because they are, of course, popular, cultural, significant images. And what biases do you see? So I want you to think critically. As a visual creator, analyst, think. Are there any blind spots? Okay. Yes, there's a little workshop here. Yes, so we can write into the paper to tell us based on the image in front of you, right? Who or what the image is about, objects, symbols, details that give the image cultural meaning. There you go. Setting and context. Remember, these are images that I just gave you. You may have not seen them ever before. So for those of us online, there's some questions we're asking that enables us to be able to get out our data. You need to know who made the image. That's the first question. Who made it? For what purpose? Yeah. So we have a diagram, it's a table actually. We're looking at the visual elements. Once you see the surface value of a particular image, you say, what is the main subject? Who and what the image is made for? Objects and the symbols, the details that give the object or the image a cultural meaning. Setting and the context where, or the setting behind that work, or the context by which that image was made, cultural meaning, and power representation. How is it represented, right? Then you give your own human interpretation of it. Yeah, okay, it's there. Beautiful. So you give your own interpretation of it, and then what does the AI interpretation look like? We want to compare the two. So you are saying something, you are seeing something, then the artificial intelligence or the algorithm, as we call it, is seeing something and is going to say something. So I want you to compare the two outcomes and the two findings, okay? And any other thing that we're missing out on, please do well to document it. So what did the AI recognize correctly? What did it misinterpret? What cultural meanings were invisible to the algorithm? And how might training data sets influence these results? So that's your assignment. Yes, please.
So for this, one is all of the application bias or the AI? About the AI?
No, your observation of the bias.
Ah.
Observation of the bias, if there's any, right? So you saw something, you have a name for it, right? You just say this is what it is, and then AI told you something. And now what observation did you find out? If you, like, for instance, now you gave me this, right? And AI gave me something. You could say that it's captured more than what you know. So that's an observation. But it did not tell you maybe the number, maybe the number of production, the dates it was produced, what tribe is from, it was so many other information that you would like to know that you did not see there. You can now say, oh, we didn't do that.
Instead of giving.
Yes, instead we described something like a festival mask or something else. It didn't give me the accurate information that I'm looking for in this. It will tell you, it might tell you 15th century, but it won't tell you 1595. It's not specific. That's a bias. Right? Because it's not giving you what it's not, it's economical with the information. Do you see that? So there's information present that is not met. Or he deliberately did not give that, maybe because he doesn't know, or is not trained to have that. Right?
Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
So always put yours first. Because at the end of the day, as a human, you supersede what the AI will give you.
Yeah.
You're more knowledgeable than the AI. That's where a lot of people fail. They rely on the AI to tell them everything. No. As a human, you have more authority than artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can expand on your knowledge, but it only gives you more information based on what you give it. Yeah, because there's subject matter you're going to discuss, you're going to impute or prompt the artificial intelligence you had never heard of before. Don't think it has that superpower. You have the power. You have the knowledge. So always, when it comes to analysis of any information, always put the human aspect first. Let that interpretation come first. And then anything that's missing, you could check, fact check, check the AI to see if it knows more than you, if there's any gap. But I can assure you that this information is limited because it's not trained to capture as much as it's still growing. AI is emerging because there's some information that it doesn't have yet. But the more you prompt, the more you feed it. Right? So if you ask it a particular question, it's going to do all its best to find that information. And as you keep feeding it, it's going to expand. So what you find out today may not be what you see tomorrow. Because by tomorrow you have trained it unknowingly to go get more information for you. So when you put the same prompt, you're going to get a different outcome because you have fed it and it has done the work to go find more information. That's how it works. Yes. Yes, always do your human interpretation. Yes, please. So let us not spend too much time. I think we have just a few minutes more. We can sleep here all day. We can spend all day here. I hope I've been able to, make you think, make you to see beyond the ordinary and not depend on only the AI algorithms that are fed to you. So please, one or two persons, any observations, anything you noticed from this exercise? Yeah? Is there anything you want to share with us?
Discussion. It was when we shared just one of these picture in Google Lens. We had just some picture from this cemetery
Yes.
without any festival or anything. It was just heritage.
Yes.
When we also these photos in the Google Lens, you have different output. It was some winter festival or some national festival. And it was really interesting because when we scan both of these,
Yes, together, yes.
We can see the new references and new news in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you see that? So it has even compared for you. It has not given you more information. The one below is my own photograph. I didn't get it from the internet. It's my own photograph that I took during the boat regatta in my place. So that is one. But the one at the top is Stonehenge. Who doesn't know Stonehenge? It's a historical monument here, a heritage in the United Kingdom. So it can give you more information about that. But then it describes the other one. It will give you a national festival. It may just tell you from maybe the Niger Delta, but it may not be specific. It can even say Lagos, Nigeria, or any other tribe that is on the water. It could tell you that, but it will describe all the festive colors, number of people on the boat. It can give you that. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, there's missing information because it's not really accurate. It's not telling you exactly where it is. It can't even tell you when this photograph was taken. It can't even tell you who took the photograph. So there's information that's missing, and then that is the bias we're looking out for. So any other pressing? Thank you for that. Any other pressing observations?
I think,
Yes. Yes, please.
I think what you mentioned that eventually it's the human interface, AI can own something.
Yeah.
That is very important to keep in mind as we are using different tools.
Yes.
And methods. Then, on the earlier part of the presentation, the various tools that you presented on doing research.
Yes.
Some of which are non-traditional. I
Mhm.
think it's quite interesting. But I guess, I mean, once you have collected the data using the various tools, I think the write-up and presentation is equally important as well.
Exactly.
How we present perhaps might would, I mean, might also be useful for colleagues to know as well.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Fantastic one. And we wanted to do a collage, a physical one. When I thought about all the gum, glue, we're going to need glue. We're going to need a lot of pictures, a lot of scissors to cut and all. But then again, you can do a digital one if you want, if you're interested in doing a digital collage, right? All you have to do is to extract different images from the internet, different texts, and just use your Word document. Microsoft Word, open it, keep it in a portrait or a landscape orientation, and create a collage with all of the ideas that you have out there on your paper. The ideas that you came up with, the observations you have made, if you can create that so that you can go home with an artwork that you created today. Who's interested in indulging me? Yes, so please, if you have your computers with you or your phones, open your Microsoft Word, MS Word documents, or who has Photoshop, Corel Draw, Canva, all the graphic design tools. If you have anyone, you can please open that one up, and because those ones have inbuilt templates, they have colors, backgrounds, and all. So you might want to open Word. We're just trying to do a collage, right? Hope it's not tedious. You know, when it comes to creative stuff, it requires so much of your input and your time. So who's there with me? I can walk you through it. Just something you can use as your maybe backdrop at the end of the day, your social media handle, you can use that. So you can use any of the search words, keywords, or any images you have, and just put all the context you got from the bias. So if, for instance, we say we have a picture of a boat regatta festival, like the one that we have there, the National Festival, that one. It is actually Opobo Boat Racing Regatta Festival, right? It happens once in a year in Nigeria. But if we put that, it will have maybe regatta or boat racing or festival display or aquatic. There are some terminologies that the AI algorithm will put out for us. So you can use all those findings. It's going to throw out some words at you describing. So you just capture all of them. You can, whatever image you have, whatever outcomes, descriptions that come out of them, use them to decorate the image and just cut and paste, cut and paste. That's what collage is. So you just pick and draw, pick and draw. So some of the text, you can make them bold. Some of them, you can make them smaller. That's the hierarchy we're talking about. And then you can either centralize or flush from the left, top, bottom, just play around with anything. There's no right or wrong way to make a creation, okay? So while we're at it, is there anybody who is interested in this, any of the creative methods we've mentioned today? And does that apply to your research? If you have a project, let's discuss it briefly and see which one aligns best with your research topic. Anyone here that you think that um, the creative methods with any of them could be the critical visual analysis, could be the arts and embodied research method, could be the photo voicing. Yes,
it's about participatory co-creation.
Good. So what's your topic like?
My topic is about bridging the disability divide in the physical environment and the digital environment.
Okay, so digital and the physical environment.
Yeah.
Is it a case of knowing for them to have digital skills or for them to do something with digital? What exactly is the
It is
pain
about
point?
evaluating
Okay.
and innovating with their living environment.
Mm-hmm.
I evaluated the situation and innovate local creation, what work for them in their local environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are you applying any materials? Are you creating any materials for them? Do you want to create awareness?
Yeah, it is just in the area of forest.
Is it police?
Forest, yes.
Yes, okay. That is law enforcement. Okay.
And so even social support, community support. That is what I'm thinking.
Okay, what kind of method do you think? I think I'm looking at audiovisual because
I'm using qualitative food.
yes, this is under qualitative. All these methods are qualitative research methods, not quantitative. You know, quantitative has to do with data analysis, as in numbers and in figures. But once you come to qualitative, you begin to see all these kind of methods, grounded research, the photo voice that we saw, the participatory research methods. So I'm trying to see the best way to engage your audience. Yes, those who are affected by disability, right?
I was developing like prompting with AI.
Yes.
To develop like I'm from Tanzania.
Yes.
I use it is idea of prototype of pamoja. In English we can say together.
Okay, togetherness.
Togetherness.
Okay.
I wish if I could open so.
No, please, let me see so I can get a full understanding of it. Because when you say participatory, it comes in various forms, right? So even interviewing people, there's a participatory angle to it. When you're creating with them, it depends on the outcome you're trying to achieve. That determines that method. So this method, are you strictly on it, or there's a way you can adjust it such that the people have something to see and feel and engage with, right? So that's so is it an online thing? Is it a website? Is it an app?
I'm developing a system.
Okay, it's developing a system here.
For strengthening what is working in the community.
Okay.
For instance, there is a forest which exists there. So I'm trying to come with because the policy which exists in my country, it is about collecting data and feeding the system.
Okay.
But for me, I see that a person on the ground in the community who is suffering, nothing is reported. So my idea was to make sure that the voice of the youth in the community,
yes,
how is heard.
Oh,
Yeah. So I developed this framework.
So what if the user now that you're developing for, are they tech savvy? Do they have this knowledge? And how are you going to communicate this knowledge to them? Because do they have lights? Do they have the access to technology? Do they have laptops, phones, all those things? Because you don't want to be extractive or authoritative, because you're trying to solve a problem for them. So when you come in, you need to be sure that they have all that they need to be able to benefit from what you have created for them. So have you thought about that?
First, I started using it is a governance system.
Okay.
So I'm not, because sometimes they can start the self-help group to help each other. But at the end, one clever person maybe can decide to disappear with the money.
Oh, yeah.
So my idea was to develop a governance system that monitor. I'm not keeping the money, but I'm monitoring them.
Yes, how the money is spent.
Who has paid the fees?
Yes.
Who have been given the loan? Who have refunded the loan? That is my idea of developing.
Okay. So are you going to train who is going to manage that? Because when you create this system, are you going to be the one monitoring the system, or you're going to also train others?
Going to monitor the system.
Wow. Okay.
Um,
No community elder will be part of it to be able to also learn how to monitor what comes to them, what is due them, and
my idea is to get their idea,
Mhm.
to do dialogue based stuff.
Yes.
And they should not think that
Yes. So this work of yours is fantastic. It's mitigating corruption.
yeah.
Yes, it's doing a lot for the community. But my advice to you would be to engage with trustworthy people or people that the community look up to train them to be able to open this information you have created, to give them insight. For example, you create where the loan is coming from. So for example, if you say US aid sends X amount to this community and people are meant to get loans from there.
Yeah.
Some people take the money holistically, run away with the money.
Yeah.
We're aware of that. That is corruption. But people are meant to have autonomy or the knowledge of where the money is coming from, where it is going, who is taking it. So at least you need to train one or two persons to be able to have that digital knowledge, that technological savvy or tech knowledge, to be able to know and monitor these records. So imagine if anything happens to you, God forbid, what now happens to this your knowledge?
The system
Is gone. So you need to also have people who are knowledgeable about what you have created for them. The police, the monitoring system that helps you monitor the ins and the outs of their finances, right? For the community. It's meant for the people. So the people, if you want to apply participatory approach, ensure that one or two persons is conversant with the technology you have provided for them. Because if you do it and you're not there, it is lost. That service and that solution is gone. So please do a sensitization workshop where they will bring people who, even the ones who don't have never touched the computer, you will teach them how to run use a computer and run the system and monitor and know how to read and interpret the records. Okay? Yes, to help you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, any other person? So let's run through. Now for the big one. After all this, there's no place you go to that they're having conversations about AI, algorithms, use of information, images, who owns the image. Everybody is stressed out. And once, I'm not supposed to say it, but I get really stressed when people talk about AI is biased, AI is stealing our data, but you fly. You use aeroplanes, right? So there's carbon emissions there. So when people talk about the ethical impact of artificial intelligence, it will always be there. I don't have the solutions yet. You don't have the solutions yet. These are tools. Consider them as tools. And tools always come with their positives and their negatives, right? But they are here to stay. And while we're using them by, putting in information and it's affecting the environment because of the usage, there's something behind the scenes that everybody's complaining about. Yes, it's for a period. And there was a conversation we had yesterday. Someone said, I'm doing my own, and let us say I don't use AI systems to interpret my data, to do anything because of the environmental impact. And then one day somebody bombs my community, bombs the world, or bombs the country. That does a lifelong damage worse than what the AI is doing, or what even an airplane carbon emission will do to the environment. Do you see that? It has lasting negative impact on the environment. So while we talk about ethical AI, who is training the data, data is stealing the data from us, I don't think that should be a problem unless it begins to affect people's lives. For instance, someone can steal your image and commit crime. Image identity theft, those are the kind of things we should be worried about. And guess what? They were happening long before the invention of artificial intelligence. And it will continue happening. What can we do to safeguard our data are questions we begin to ask. Usage of our information, who has authorship and ownership of our images. Those are the kind of conversations we should be having. Trust that everybody uses a tool and it is the implementation that is the challenge. How they use it is the problem. Because like I said, people have been committing crime, identity thefts, financial theft, all kinds of things. Someone can want to get into this building, does not have an access card, but perhaps the person picked up the key card from one of us here, and the person can come in, right? People do that. They break into places that they're uninvited to. But these are the kind of things that happen. And then if someone now becomes more advanced, they use these tools that are meant for good to do harm. And we can't do much about that, but to curtail how we interact with these things. Because if you see, there's an app that if someone calls you up to the point of a face call, the person is doing a video call with you, and it looks like a family member. They have trained AI to have facial recognition such that I could be speaking to you and you think it's Beyonce on the phone talking to you, and you're like, wow, Beyonce, and the voice also is Beyonce's voice. Wow, that is wonderful. Wow, that is good. People are using it to exploit other people, right? So we just have to safeguard ourselves from things like this. But that shouldn't affect the positive outcome or output that the artificial intelligence is providing to our communities and the world at large. Because there was something I read online. Someone has been battling an ailment for a long time that has been unexplained by doctors around the world. But artificial intelligence, Claude specifically, gave them a full-on diagnosis, and the person has been cured. Do you see that? So AI is not a doctor. I don't know how that happened, but the person ran in their symptoms, the number of years, the way they feel, everything. And artificial intelligence was able to give a diagnosis, and doctors were able to heal that person of their lifelong ailment. So there are the positive sides to these things. So we don't have to focus on the negatives and make a big deal out of it, because everybody likes to have a debate to sound very intellectual and what have you. But oftentimes you just have to go with what is in front of you in anticipation for a better future. Okay, so before we close, these are what we're talking about. Who trains the model? Who owns the regenerated heritage? How do we avoid cultural flattening, and how do we ensure community consent? These are the things you should consider, questions you should ask when you are trying to use artificial intelligence to analyze your data and your research material. Okay? So do we go ahead or do we call it today? This has been a very long workshop. So my final thoughts today is that archives, which is all the information that we can source, whether physically or digitally, are not only places where history is stored, they are spaces where new interpretations and meanings can emerge. Through creative and design-led methods, all of us, researchers, PG students, early career researchers, can engage with visual heritage in ways that go beyond traditional analysis. By combining practice-led approaches, participatory methods, and emerging tools such as AI, doctoral researchers can uncover overlooked narratives, question algorithmic bias, and develop innovative ways of interpreting cultural memory. And as you leave this workshop, I encourage you to experiment with at least one or more of these creative methods in your own research, and let archives or heritage, as we call it, become sites of exploration, critical reflection, and imaginative inquiry rather than static repositories of the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you.